It was just another quiet Sunday morning, the kind where the house still felt half asleep and the light poured in through the kitchen window in a soft, golden haze. I was sipping my coffee, lost in thought, when I felt it, that strange sensation, like someone was watching me. I glanced up, expecting to see my husband, or maybe our dog waiting for breakfast. But instead, I saw my son. Standing silently in the hallway, eyes fixed on me, not blinking. Just staring. At first, I smiled, thinking maybe he wanted to say something or was just being silly. "Hey, buddy," I said lightly, "you okay?" But he didn't respond. He just stood there, like he was frozen. There was nothing playful about it. His expression was blank, almost distant, and something about the way he looked at me sent a chill right through my spine. He's 8. Normally full of energy and questions. He's the kind of kid who can't sit still for 5 minutes and always wants to show me something, his drawings, a bug he found in the yard, or his new favorite dance move. But this wasn't him. This was different. I walked over slowly, trying not to startle him, but he turned and walked away before I could reach him. Not a word. Just turned and disappeared down the hall. I tried to shake it off. Maybe he was sleepwalking. Or maybe he was just in a strange mood. Kids are unpredictable. But even as I got back to my coffee, I couldn't stop thinking about that look on his face. I didn't want to overreact, but something deep in my gut told me this wasn't nothing. Something was wrong. The day went on, and he seemed mostly normal. He ate breakfast, watched cartoons, even laughed a little when our dog tripped over his own tail. But there were moments, quick, quiet moments, where I'd catch him watching me again. Not in a curious way, not in a playful way. Just watching. It felt like he was studying me. Or waiting for something. By the time evening came, I was trying to convince myself it was all in my head. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I'd watched too many mystery movies. But that night, when I tucked him into bed, I leaned down to kiss his forehead like always, and he flinched. Like he was scared of me. His eyes widened for a second, and then he forced a smile, like he was trying to hide it. That's when I knew. This wasn't just weird behavior. Something had changed. I didn't sleep much that night. My mind kept spinning. Was he being bullied? Had he seen something that scared him? Was he sick? Or was it something else entirely? I kept going over the past few weeks, trying to spot anything unusual, anything I might have missed. But everything seemed so normal, until now. The next morning, I decided to talk to him. Really talk. But what happened when I finally got the chance was something I never could have prepared for. It started with one innocent question. Just one. And the answer he gave me, what he said and how he said it, turned everything upside down. It wasn't just the words. It was the way he looked at me when he spoke. Like I wasn't his mom. Like he didn't even know who I was. I caught my son staring at me, and what followed was unthinkable. Now, before I tell you exactly what happened next, I need you to remember one thing. Sometimes, the people closest to us hold the biggest secrets. And sometimes, what seems like a strange moment is just the beginning of something far more terrifying. I sat across from him at the kitchen table the next morning. The cereal in his bowl was getting soggy, but he didn't seem to notice. He was just stirring it slowly, round and round, like his mind was somewhere else entirely. I asked gently, "Hey, is there something bothering you? You can tell me anything, you know that, right?" He didn't look up. He just gave the slightest nod, then whispered, "I saw something." My heart skipped. "What did you see, sweetheart?" I kept my voice calm, though I could feel my hands starting to tremble a little. He finally looked up at me, but there was something odd in his eyes, something I couldn't place. Not fear exactly, but distance. Like he was watching me from 1,000 miles away. And then he said, "I saw you. But it wasn't you." I tried to keep my expression steady, but inside I was unraveling. "What do you mean? When did you see this?" He looked back down at his bowl and mumbled, "Last night. And before that, too." That's when the memories started flashing in my mind, strange little things I'd brushed off. Like how I'd found his bedroom light on at 3 a.m. a few nights ago, even though he swore he hadn't turned it on. Or how he'd started locking his door, which he never used to do. I'd chalked it up to growing up, maybe testing boundaries. But now, it felt like pieces of a puzzle I didn't know I was solving. I asked him what he meant by not me, and he paused, then said, "She looked like you. She had your voice. But she wasn't you. She did something weird with her face." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean, her face?" I asked. He hesitated. "It changed. It got blurry. Like it melted for a second. Then it went back." I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to scare him, but I also couldn't pretend this was normal. Part of me wanted to believe he was making it up, or maybe dreaming. But the way he said it, so quietly, so seriously, it didn't feel like a lie. It felt like truth, raw and confusing. That night, after he went to bed, I sat alone in the living room with the lights dimmed, thinking. I kept going over every moment in the past few weeks. Had I felt off in any way? Was there a time I'd lost track of hours, or days? Nothing stood out. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized something had changed in the house. The silence felt different. The air felt heavier. I decided to check on him around midnight. Just to make sure he was okay. I crept quietly down the hallway, the floorboards creaking beneath my feet. His door was cracked open just slightly. I pushed it gently, not wanting to wake him. But what I saw made my skin crawl. He wasn't asleep. He was sitting upright in bed, eyes wide open, staring straight at the wall. His hands were folded in his lap, perfectly still. He didn't even blink. I whispered his name, but he didn't respond. I stepped into the room slowly, and that's when he turned his head slowly, mechanically, like he'd heard me, but wasn't sure who I was. And then he smiled. But it wasn't the sweet, innocent smile I knew. It was strange. Like he was trying to mimic something he'd seen, but didn't understand how it really worked. That smile has been burned into my mind ever since. Something is happening to my son. And whatever it is, it's just beginning. The next few days were a blur. I started keeping a closer eye on him, noticing patterns I hadn't picked up on before. He was quieter during the day, almost like he was watching the world rather than participating in it. But at night, something shifted. I'd hear footsteps in the hallway, soft but deliberate, even after I'd tucked him in. Once, I caught him standing in the laundry room at 2 in the morning, just staring at the wall. When I called his name, he didn't flinch. He just turned around slowly, looked at me with those same blank eyes, and said, "She's not gone." I didn't know who she was. I asked over and over, but he'd shut down every time. And it wasn't just the sleepwalking or the strange expressions. He started drawing things, too. Pages and pages of sketches is me, but not quite me. My face, but wrong. Twisted, melted, with eyes that were too wide or no mouth at all. Sometimes the drawings had words scribbled underneath in his shaky handwriting. "She's inside now. Don't trust her eyes. Mom is a copy." It was getting harder to think straight. I wasn't sleeping, constantly checking the baby monitor we still had from when he was younger. I kept the volume on high, just in case he whispered anything in the dark. And one night, he did. I heard him talking, low and quick, like he was having a conversation. But he was alone. When I played the recording back the next morning, I could barely make it out, but I caught fragments. "She watches me when she sleeps, but that's not when she moves." At the same time, I started to notice changes in myself. Nothing big at first, just forgetting where I'd put things, missing words mid-sentence. Then it got worse. I'd walk into a room and forget why I was there. One morning, I found muddy footprints in the kitchen, leading back to the door. But none of us had been outside. I checked the locks. Everything was shut tight. I even started questioning whether I was doing things in my sleep without knowing it. Was it stress? Was I losing time? Or was there something else, something darker? I tried reaching out to a friend, Jess, someone I trusted. I told her a version of what was going on, leaving out the weirder parts. She offered to come over. But the night before she was supposed to visit, my son handed me one of his drawings. It was her. Jess. Only her eyes were blacked out, and under the picture, he'd written, "She shouldn't come. She'll see it too." Jess still came over the next day, despite everything. I didn't tell her about the drawing. Part of me hoped it was just another strange coincidence. Maybe he was just picking up on my stress. Maybe I was seeing signs where there weren't any. But when she walked in, my son wouldn't even look at her. He sat rigid on the couch, hands clenched into fists, eyes fixed on the floor. Jess tried to talk to him, all warmth and kindness like she always was, but he barely blinked. Then, out of nowhere, he whispered, "You need to leave. Now." We both froze. Jess glanced at me, confused, trying to laugh it off. But there was no laughter in that moment. My son slowly raised his head, finally meeting her eyes. "She's already seen it," he said, voice completely flat. "It doesn't like that." That night, after Jess left, still shaken but brushing it off as just a kid being off, the house felt heavier than ever. Like the walls were pressing in. I tried to go about things normally. Cooked dinner. Cleaned up. Pretended nothing was wrong. But every time I turned around, my son was there. Not saying anything. Just watching. That night, as I sat on the edge of my bed trying to make sense of everything, I heard a sound I'll never forget. It was a low, humming noise, like static mixed with whispering, coming from the baby monitor. I grabbed it and listened closer. There were words, but they didn't make sense, fragmented, jumbled, looping over themselves. And then I heard a voice that sounded exactly like mine. But I wasn't speaking. I rushed down the hallway, heart pounding, and opened his door. He was gone. The window was open. The curtains were fluttering. And on the floor, another drawing. This one showed our house, but there were two of me in it. One standing in the window. The other, in the mirror. That was when I realized, whatever this thing was, whatever had been slowly moving through my son, it was closer than I ever thought. And it wasn't done with us yet. I tore through the house, calling his name, checking every corner, every closet, even under the beds, nothing. My hands were shaking as I ran into the backyard, eyes darting between the trees and shadows. That awful humming sound was still echoing in my head. I kept telling myself he couldn't have gone far. But in my gut, I knew this wasn't just a child sneaking out through an open window. This felt like something had taken him. Then I saw it, bare footprints in the dewy grass, leading toward the woods behind our house. I followed them without thinking, barefoot, heart pounding, branches whipping at my arms. The deeper I went, the more I felt like I was walking into something I wasn't meant to find. The air was colder, too still. And then, out of nowhere, everything went silent. No wind. No insects. Just nothing. That's when I saw him. Standing perfectly still in a small clearing, back to me. I started to run to him, relief washing over me, but as I got closer, I froze. His body was still, too still, unnatural, like he was being held up by invisible strings. And then I noticed something that made my blood go cold. His shadow, it wasn't facing the same way as mine. It was facing me. Before I could process what I was seeing, I heard a rustle behind me. I spun around, and there I was. Not a reflection. Not a dream. Me, standing there, staring back with hollow eyes, head slightly tilted, expression empty. No words. Just breathing. I stumbled backward, looking between the figure that looked like me, and my son, still frozen in the clearing. That's when I realized this thing, whatever it was, it hadn't just been watching. It had been learning. Studying us. And now, it wasn't just copying my face. It wanted my place. I didn't know whether to run toward my son or away from whatever had taken my shape. Every instinct in me screamed both. The copy of me stepped forward, slow and deliberate, barefoot on the forest floor. Its eyes locked on mine, cold, calculating, like it was sizing me up. I took a step back, heart slamming against my ribs. My son still hadn't moved. It was like he was frozen in time, caught in some invisible grip. Then the thing that looked like me spoke. "You've made it harder than it needed to be." The voice was mine. But flatter. Hollow. Like it had run through static. I opened my mouth to scream, to shout for help, for anything, but my voice caught in my throat. It kept speaking. "He chose me. Not you." I shook my head, trying to understand. "What do you mean? Who chose you? What are you?" The thing tilted its head the other way, like it didn't understand the question. Or maybe, it didn't care. "He opened the door," it said. "He looked too long. And now I'm real." That's when I remembered something. Weeks ago, he had told me about a dream. A nightmare, really. He said he saw me standing at the foot of his bed, whispering something he couldn't hear. That I looked like I was wearing my skin, but it didn't fit right. At the time, I'd brushed it off as imagination. Kids dream weird things. But what if it hadn't been a dream? The trees around us began to creak and bend, like they were being pulled inward by something unseen. The air buzzed with that same static hum, only now it was louder, closer, coming from everywhere at once. My son's eyes blinked once, slowly, painfully, and then he whispered one word that shattered me. Run. But I couldn't. Because the thing wearing my face was already reaching for me. I don't remember deciding to move, I just did. I lunged forward, past the thing that looked like me, straight toward my son. As soon as I touched him, everything shifted. The ground trembled. That awful humming cracked into a high-pitched screech, and the air around us seemed to tear open, like fabric being ripped. I pulled him close, shielding him as the world blurred around us. When I looked up, the figure was gone. So was the clearing. We were standing at the edge of the woods again, just behind our house, like nothing had ever happened. He clung to me, shaking but conscious, and for the first time in days, his eyes looked like his again, clear, alive. We didn't speak on the way back inside. We didn't need to. Whatever had been haunting him, whatever had been trying to replace me, was gone. At least, for now. In the days that followed, the drawings stopped. He started talking more, slowly opening up. He said it started when he'd stared too long into the hallway mirror late one night. Said he'd seen something looking back that wasn't him, and behind that, another version of me, smiling too wide. We got rid of that mirror the same day. I don't know what it was or where it came from. All I know is something ancient, something watching, had found a way through him. Through us. And now, every time I walk past a mirror, I hesitate. Just for a second. Because deep down, I know something might still be waiting on the other side. Watching. Learning. Still wanting in.